Hey there, citizens. I'm Super Doctor Jordan Reading, and you're watching Your Brain on Crack, the show that I was worried I wouldn't have time to record, what with all my superheroing out there, but I defeated all my enemies the first week on the job. It's honestly super easy, barely an inconvenience. Man, that could be a cool catchphrase. I didn't really do much. I just looked around and paid attention to my surroundings, which I guess kind of counts as a superpower considering how many fantasy and sci-fi universes often include one outsider or newbie character who exists specifically so knowledgeable goblins or whatever can exposition at them so the audience can also catch up on the ancient blood feud between talking trees and rocks that feel pain or whatever. Think Neo learning about the Matrix, or Luke learning about the Force, or Paul Atreides learning about sand.
I don't like sand.
Their ignorance of how things work in their universes is the whole initial point of their characters. But that doesn't explain why those same movies often also feature characters absolutely dumbfounded by things they should experience every day. For instance, the all-time classic example of doofuses forgetting everything about everything is in the first few minutes of Star Wars: A New Hope, when Princess Leia figuratively shoves a Coke balloon stuffed with stolen Death Star plans up R2-D2's robo-rectum before jettisoning him and C-3PO in an escape pod. Imperial officers are about to shoot it down, but then one says,
"Hold your fire, there's no life forms."
Then besides, laser blasts don't grow on Rorschach trees, and they have that budget review tomorrow. Tell me in the comments how you pronounce Rorschach trees.
Today we are making Rorschach tree cake from the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge cookbook.
In other words, the entire plot of Star Wars is only possible because several adult soldier men completely forget that droids are a thing. Hell, the guy who let the pod go reports this to Vader, a dude who is himself like 75% machine. He probably doesn't even register on lifeform scans and is constantly being thwarted by CAPTCHA tests. Forget droids. Did they forget about the concept of written language? The Death Star plans, or something equally important, could have still been on the escape pod inside an old envelope or smeared on the pod's toilet walls and feces. The Resistance can read shit.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
But that's far from the only example. In the first Matrix, agents seem genuinely surprised when Keanu Reeves shows up sporting every single gun in existence in an effort to rescue Morpheus, even though they live in a simulated universe where any weapon can be spawned at zero cost. If Neo wanted to, he could have stormed the building in a power suit made out of military-grade weaponry, and yes, of course, Dave, it has a bazooka penis. What kind of question even is that?
That's why it's going to work.
Then you have the strange case of Netflix's Bright, a very poor allegory for racism set in a world full of elves and orcs and, humans.
Fairy lives don't matter today.
When a human suspect speaks Orcish to Will Smith's orc partner, Smith acts incredulous. Is that Orcish? How in the hell do you know how to speak Orcish? I said in my best Will Smith impersonation.
Show me the face orc makes when he just shut the up.
Does Duolingo not exist in the world of Bright? That'd be like me having a nervous breakdown whenever Dave fluently orders a gordita. Yo quiero gordita. How do you know Spanish, Dave? You're not, in fact, a Spaniard. What is this? Even weirder, when another character reveals elf terrorists are attempting to resurrect an ancient dark lord, the feds call it
fairy tales.
The world is literally full of literal fairies, dude. Also, centaurs and wands that can do basically anything, including resurrecting the dead.
If you think a magic wand is something out of a fairy tale, you're wrong.
Imagine if you called the cops and said someone with a gun was trying to break into your house and they were like, lol, sounds like someone's watched a bit too much Home Alone. Guns aren't real, bad guys aren't real, houses aren't real. Macaulay Culkin is not real. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry, Dave. Sometimes I think there's something at the end of the sentence in my brain, but there's not. Sometimes we just ride that out and see where we land. Nowhere good!
Yeah.
And yet somehow the absolute dumbest example of this might be in the fourth Transformers movie, Age of Mark Wahlberg.
What? No!
At one point, one robot asks Optimus Prime,
"You think you were born?" "No, you were built."
So, wait, does that mean Opie doesn't know how he was born? It never occurred to him to ask where Transformer babies come from? Does that make him a robo-virgin who's clueless about the robo-birds and the robo-bees, which I think are drones and RC helicopters. Does he think a mechanized stork bot dropped him off on his mechanized mommy's mechanical porch? That's a very surprising revelation, especially from Michael I put testicles on a robot Bay.
I am directly below enemy scrotum.
In the world of Harry Potter, there is something called the Polyjuice Potion, which is a magical brew that allows you to transform into any person if you have their DNA, like a piece of their hair, or if you lick some off their foot. Look, we're not here to judge how they get the goods. I don't think I made this joke, but this is talking about Polyjuice Potion, which lets people change into whatever, but not a different gender.
Yeah, he used to go by Hergrid, but now he's transgender.
The point is, the transformation is completely undetectable, and even dumbass children can pull it off. And not just dumbass children.
Bloody hell.
Also, at one point, an insane psychopath and one of Magic Hitler's most loyal supporters chugs some and manages to infiltrate Hogwarts for an entire year by posing as another teacher. There are two weird things about all this. First, we only see the potion used for like subterfuge, when I know that Diagon Alley has a store full of private rooms with full-length mirrors and a basket to put your clothes in and DNA samples from a bunch of the sexiest wizard celebrities. Yeah. You know how you'd use that.
I don't think I'm going. You go on without me.
Hermione.
The second is that, on the whole, seemingly no one is paranoid about the potion's existence when they absolutely should be. There appears to be no routine security measures to catch secret polyjuicers, not just in schools, but even in the halls of government. If I lived in the Harry Potter universe, I'd be checking for this constantly. I'd call the magic cops anytime I noticed somebody choking down magic tuna salad for lunch instead of their usual magic egg salad. And I'd be justified, because scammers could show up looking like cops or your best friend or your long-lost love coming to tell you that they want to have you right now on the kitchen table, but also the only thing that gets them horny anymore is your credit card number and the expiration date in the CVC.
I know she's an imposter.
On that note, every woman would have to wonder whether she's with her boyfriend or some jealous creep wearing his skin while the real guy's tied up in the basement, like watching all the Marvel movies or something. Is it that noticeable? Serial killers could disguise themselves as lost crying children in the park, or hell, assuming the identity of the last person that they killed and then spending days hanging out with the victim's family and wearing everybody's underwear. And what form of ID would be convincing in a world where goddamned magic is a thing? Remember, polyjuicers are mimicking these people right down to their fingerprints. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be? Well, in a few decades, we might find that out firsthand if our world turns out like Westworld.
What the hell are you talking about?
Just as a reminder, the entire draw of the titular fictional theme park is its sophisticated robots that are absolutely human in every way that matters. Appearance, behavior, texture, smell, vaginal tightness. And if you haven't seen the show, let me put your mind at ease and confirm that yes, the tourists, they 100% are testing the tightness with their penis.
Doesn't look like anything to me.
The Westworld robots are so perfectly lifelike that, spoiler alert, it turns out that basically every main human character is secretly a robot the whole time.
Am I?
But not only do none of their co-workers know, they themselves don't know half the time. And yet no one in that universe at any point considers that the person they're talking to might secretly have oil in their plastic labia. Dave, the shit you try and get me to say, good grief.
You're a fucking monster.
As if the very concept of perfectly imitating reality wasn't the entire damn point of their place of employment. But levels of societal trust in the worlds of Harry Potter and Westworld would be positively healthy compared to the X-Men universe, where you not only have a bunch of chameleon mutants, but also mutants who basically have every power imaginable. Forget about the government harassment you see in the movies. How has human society in the X-Men movies not torn itself apart yet? Imagine, say, a baseball player suddenly hitting 5 home runs in one game. There'd be calls to test, ban, and possibly bludgeon him to death with his own bat for obviously being a mutant before he even reached home base. I mean, what he did was f***ed up. It's not like he did something small, like molest 70 women.
I know we're far from being done.
A kid comes out of nowhere to win a regional spelling bee, clearly a mutant with vicious dictionary powers. Whoa, look at this asshole who just won 50 grand in roulette at a Vegas casino. Yeah, nice telekinesis powers you've got there, pal. Come in the back so that we can quietly place your hand in a vice. Or maybe your dick.
I'd like to take an interest in my students.
Now imagine the uproar following any kind of cataclysm. Is this horrific flood a natural event, or one of those weather-influencing mutants holding a grudge, which again, the X-Men universe has more than one of. Hell, the first time an anti-mutant politician dies of cancer at age 86, there would be violent mobs in the streets looking for the unknown tumor-slinging mutant terrorist. And you know what's scariest? You can't say for sure that there isn't a mutant out there who can give people cancer by just looking at them hard enough. And if you try to preach civility and peace, guess what? That means that you're secretly being controlled by a telepathic mutant, and before you know it, you're gonna end up with 1,000 cc's of brick to the head to get the, mutant-loving thoughts out of your dumbass brain. Speaking of small but talented children stealing your information so they can impersonate you and ruin your life, let's talk about INCOGNI. Shh, INCOGNI. Specifically how INCOGNI defends you against wizards and mutants. Look, unless you found the transcript of this video carved into the Rosetta Stone in the desert, we're all internet users here. And we're all at least somewhat aware that our information is being bought and sold. But you're probably not aware how that information is actually being used. For example, I was shocked to learn how much of my information, including my physical address, was somehow sold to all those creepy find people websites. INCOGNI protects against that, but it also has dramatically reduced my spam since I started using it. And yes, there's a downside. I don't know where all the horny single MILFs in my area are, but on the plus side, I've already got plenty in my basement. On the plus side, if any of these freaking data brokers get hacked, which happens all the time, I can rest easy in the knowledge that at least nobody will steal my information and sell it to a Death Eater or whatever. And thanks to our partnership with them, now you can too. The first 100 people who sign up and use code CRACKED at the link below will get 20% off their purchase. Protect your privacy today. Again, go to incogni.com/cracked and use code CRACKED to protect yourself from scheming British actors. Sometimes characters do find themselves in a society absent of any social trust and where anybody can be betrayed at any time with the betrayer escaping consequences no matter what, and yet everybody raised in these circumstances is just looking for reasons to forget that, hey, maybe some people are bad? Look at Ned Stark, the Ned Flanders of Game of Thrones.
Calm down, Nedley diddly diddly.
In season 1, he comes off as a noble hero willing to fight for what is right, and we respect him for it. But does being noble involve forgetting that other people aren't? Now, Ned Stark already knows from personal first-hand experiences that self-serving lies are a thing, yet Ned still signs his own death sentence by warning Cersei that he knows that she committed incest and produced a bunch of Neff sons and a niece daughter. Yeah, obviously he was trying to protect her kids because he's a nice guy, but that doesn't mean he had to be a dumb guy about it. He has lived and functioned in a world without real justice his whole life, and yet is giving the Queen, one of the most politically powerful people on the continent, a heads up that he's coming for her.
We shared a wound.
He knows that imprisoning and killing him would solve the bad guy's problems pretty much instantly, right? And yet he keeps dropping his pants, plopping his ass on a plate, and serving it up to his enemies while y'all, come on, get it! This should make me a Game of Thrones character for the prequel. Hey, guy, come on, get it! They're like, I think the dragons are getting angry. Oh, shit! Not the dragon, what the f? Roll up in my NASCAR. God damn, dragons is shit. Can't do that.
I've made many mistakes in my life.
Then you have the even stranger case of Roose Bolton, the villainous character who broke his sacred vows and murdered his king, but didn't anticipate his own clearly psychopathic son giving him an intestinal piercing when he announced that said son may no longer be his rightful heir. Again, this is a universe in which murder is a fantastic way to solve problems. But one character after another expresses total shock and surprise the moment they feel the blade entering their anus. It's not only a Game of Thrones thing, though. I can't honestly say that I feel sorry for Selena Kyle in Batman Returns, who confronts her boss, Christopher Walken, about all the illegal shit that he's doing alone, without any witnesses, and late at night.
Be gentle, it's my first time.
She lives in the world of Tim Burton's Batman, for God's sake, which is essentially what happens when a homeless clown has PCP-induced nightmares in an abandoned comic book shop and, makes a town out of it.
I make art until someone dies.
This is all why I work with Dave. He's such a dumb wussy. I know he'd never betray me or have ulterior motives. He's too weak. Oh, where did you get that knife, Dave? Dave? Dave! Dave!